Let's talk about creating safe spaces in Castro.
Did somebody say recovery?
Let's talk about meetings, sex and recovery.
Sober sex? Did somebody say dick?
Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about...
Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues with Bonnie Violet
and Lulu.
Each week, we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
Yes, and our intention is to inspire better spaces for more people in recovery.
By tackling topics used to separate us.
But before we do that, please make sure you comment, share, and like.
Share, comment.
Share.
Follow,
she said every week. Exactly.
Share
follow.
Now.
Press
that share button.
Wherever you listen to us.
I think they got the message.
Yeah, exactly.
Share.
Well, we really want you. I think we really want you to share.
Yeah, please share.
I know, exactly. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, you know?
Yes, same here. It's like, how was your last week, huh?
It's been pretty good. It's like when you ask me about like how I've been doing, it's like my emotions have been kind of like, I swear I'm always emotional, but things are really busy. So I've been really good with that. I don't know. I was like, there's like, I don't know. I was like,
I don't think you're, I don't think you're alone in the whole emotional part because things are crazy. I mean, it's like, things are finally look like they're taking on some form of normalcy. I don't know what that is going to look like in the end, but it feels kind of good, like seeing people out and about, and the fact that a lot of us are vaccinated. So it's like here's hope. They're painting the outside of buildings in the Castro and cleaning stuff up, and I'm on. Maybe.
And there's like an opening, you're seeing less masks on people. You're seeing smiles. You're seeing, like, I don't know. It's just everything's opening up.
Yeah. I was so last week for the most of the week I was on vacation, and I'm kind of still on vacation. So the weekend I had a nice long weekend in Palm Springs, and things are a little different there. So it was really nice. I mean, it's super hot. It's like,
how so different?
Well, I mean, there seems to be a little more openness, and actually, it's the same. Now that I think about it, it's the same here because we would go to restaurants, and normally they had the rule where you had to have your mask on when you were. But obviously the people that were working there would keep their masks on, but we walk around without masks, and like pandemic who?
Right. It's like being in a red state.
Yeah. We were in the reddest part of California.
Right. Jen, you had good weather.
Oh, good weather. I always say like Palm Springs, they do heat the right way because it's hot here and we die.
Right. But hot here is like 80 or maybe 90.
Yeah. But there is almost it was almost 100, but they have misters. It was dry heat. So it wasn't all humid and sweaty. And pools, and everybody had air conditioning. I mean, as long as I wasn't in the heat too long, and I spent a lot of time in the pool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and it's nice to be in that sort of weather every now and again. If you lived it in every day, that might be a whole nother issue.
I would be out by the pool like at night, like doing stuff, just sitting by because the weather was so great, and I'm like, and there's not a lot of light pollution. Like, so it's like you look up in the sky, it's like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I lived in Arizona in my like late teens, early 20s. And there it was like either hot or really fucking hot. Like that was just the weather all the time.
Nice. I mean, I like the mixture. I mean, I think unfortunately, San Francisco, it has been a combination of heat and wind, cold and wind and wind.
Yeah.
Rain and wind. I'm all seriously let up off the wind for a moment. I thought we voted on like no wind.
I know, right? They didn't get the message.
Yeah.
This isn't Chicago.
Yeah.
We're not the Windy City.
Exactly. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about spirituality, a topic I really struggled to talk about.
Ooh.
Not so much.
No, exactly. Well, I think it's a great topic to talk about because I think that even myself going into, a lot of times we have misconceptions about what it is, and I think like with anything, it's like, clear definitions of what it is so that you're not making snap decisions or judgments about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, how would you identify spirituality for yourself?
Well, we were talking about it earlier, and when I think about spirituality, I think that it's like spirituality for me. It's just my essence. It's just it's the energy. It's who I am. It's that whatever that's in me. You know?
So kind of like that actual, like the spirit that you have,
the spirit that
the connection that you have with it is like the spirituality.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I identify spirituality as anything that lifts my body, that lifts me and animates me and moves me in a way in which like brings about creation and good and helps me be the person I want to be, you know?
Oh my God, that your definition just made mine look stupid.
No, not at all. I think it's the same thing, just different words, you know?
I know. But it was beautifully put like you're an artist.
Well, I've been trying to put it into words for a little bit, for a while now. So yeah. Has it always been that way? Well,
I think, maybe the confusion that I had was this difference between religion and spirituality. Like I automatically want to believe that when someone says that they're religious or someone says they're spiritual, that religion is tied to it, or that you some church or some believe in something. And I had a spiritual advisor when I was growing up for a short time, and helped me to see that the difference a lot of times, like for someone who is religious, they usually are looking outside of themselves for answers. Like, and the way he said it's like they're looking outside of themselves for God. And trying to find God outside and doing everything they can outside. But someone who is spiritual knows that God is already within. And so the work is done inside. Yeah.
Right. So you can be both religious and spiritual, or you could just be one or the other too.
I think you can be both. You can be both. I think that
because is religion more of the community aspect of it, or no, I feel like that's just like maybe the rules or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that, when you're trying to figure it out, the religious, because I want to be careful. I don't want to dismiss every religious person. But I think there's almost a kind of, I want to say ignorance. Like before you get to the place where you understand that if you want to find God or whatever, God, universe, or whatever, you look inside. A lot of times when you're uncertain and you're looking elsewhere, you're looking everywhere, but where you need to look. And so that's where I was. Like I was doing these things, doing that stuff, and not, going to this church, reading these books, but not really doing kind of some of the work that we do, like in recovery, to clear away a path,
right,
to get some understanding. So yeah.
And I think, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. You're gonna have to deal with this over the episodes where I just lose my mind.
You know what? You're not alone. It's like I'm all scratching my head.
I remember what I was gonna say. So like I think like folks that are religious, when they hear the word spirituality though, I think it's kind of more of a bad word for some. Whereas like we might feel spiritual people might see religion as maybe kind of a bad word or a trigger word.
Exactly.
For some folks, I know there's people in my life that are like conservative Christian or Christian where being a spiritual is like not real. It's like, crystals and new agey sort of stuff. And it's not like real, like, I don't know. Whatever.
No, exactly. Well, it's
all about your perspective, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to like, I think that when you're comfortable and you're confident in what you believe, then it doesn't matter what other people believe, or, you don't rely on somebody else to kind of reinforce your belief. You come to a place like, I remember sitting in, and it's funny, this is before I got sober, and I was sitting at a bar with my friend, and we somehow started talking about God, the idea of God. And apparently he was not a believer. And he asked me in that moment why I believed, or when I started believing. And I don't know where this came from. And this is how I know that mind of God was, is real for me as a process. I was able to tell him, I don't remember, or I don't know exactly, but I just do believe.
Yeah.
It's just there, and it's there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it's a personal kind of relationship, but it's personal in the sense that I am not going to just show up one day and on the street and start telling you everything I need to know about this. But if you ask and we have a conversation, and and that's what I'm saying. It's like when you are confident and comfortable and you trust this, then this idea of thinking that just because somebody doesn't say God or believe in God, or someone, you know, is into crystals or whatever, that they, you know, it must be a joke or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it takes what it takes for whoever, you know. Ronald is saying spirituality is having to do with intuition, which is kind of like what you're saying, is that idea of like trusting yourself. The intuition of yourself is the spirituality, where maybe religion is more of the like, I'm going to tell you what direction you need to go in and all that sort of stuff in order to get like, I don't know, these results that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I've always believed that I was quite empathic. Like in the darkest parts of my addiction, when I was paying attention, because I don't always pay attention, I would feel a darkness or just a coldness from individuals. And when I had enough clarity, or when I wasn't high enough, I would move away from that. You know, maybe dramatically. Like nowadays, it's like if something doesn't work for me, I don't have to get all dramatic and throw a parade and inform the whole world that I've made a decision. You know, back then I could. Now I can just kind of, you know, I'm gonna just love you from across the street.
And we're not saying anything against like religion or anything like that.
Not
so
at
just
all.
don't take it that way. But have you ever been religious?
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna say this. I think that like parents, people, families who like, you know, I think it's almost your responsibility to give to help your child find something to believe in. And I think that it's a great start. What I will say is like, because my family, when I was growing up, Jehovah's Witness, and that's a challenging faith in itself. And I don't have anything against it or whatever. It just wasn't for me. But my parents, once we got to an age where we're kind of able to make our own decisions, they allowed us to visit other churches. And so I don't know that I was ever kind of holy roller kind of religious, but I was definitely like, I had a lot of misinformation, because I definitely believed, oh my God, if I do this or if I do that, God's going to strike me down and all that stuff. But I think that there was only like a small window of time when I attended church regularly, and I was constantly in the Word, you know?
Yes. And I was really religious. I grew up in a family that wasn't church going, but I like loved it. Like I went to church Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if I could, whenever I could, I went to church. I loved it. I was a total Jesus freak.
Was this in defiance of your family, do you think?
No. Well, I was very different from my family in a lot of ways. I love my family a lot. I think for me, it was, my aunt took me there when I was young, and I think it was a safe place. Not to say that my home was a bad place, but I was very uncomfortable. I didn't know how to present myself, and so it was really hard. Whereas at church, I felt like I could just show up, and I didn't feel like I had to put on any sort of false or fake identity, I guess, which was interesting.
What's ironic.
Yeah, I know, right? Because people, I think, speak opposite of that. But as a child, it was that way, because at home and at school, growing up poor, you know, I had an opportunity to probably get to go to college, which was not something that people in my family normally had to do or got to do. And if I did get to go, then I was going to have to get scholarships. You know, I was going to have to earn a way to go. And so at school, I was a not very integrated young person. You know, I went to school. I was smart. I got good grades. I was really focused. I wasn't super like charismatic and fun, which I might not be as much anymore either. But like, I was just really focused on getting the good grades, getting the honors and the awards so that I could go off to college. And at home, I was just trying not to get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, and so at church, it felt like I could just go and be. And I think also because it wasn't sexualized. So I wasn't confronted with my sexuality or my gender or anything like that at that time in my life. So I think it was a way that I didn't have to, I don't know. It worked for a while until it didn't.
Until it didn't work. Was a shift about like, I mean, you know, there are some fire and brimstone churches where they make it a point on a regular to kind of talk about what is not good, what's not right.
I don't think that I ever got the message from church that like being queer, being gay was wrong, but I didn't hear queer people talked about at church. I didn't hear them talked about the Bible. I didn't see them in church. So I didn't really know anybody like myself.
And that can be just as damaging, like to not hear about it. It's almost like TV, where you don't see images or representation. And it's like, well, do we not fit? Where are we? Where do we belong?
Yeah. I mean, I had a harder time, again, kind of at home where I didn't fit the gender norm, where, I was effeminate, and, being gay or like that sort of thing would have been more of an issue. I knew that was more of an issue at home because I'd heard family members, my parents talk poorly about, queer people. So my first, so the first time I got in trouble for cussing, my brother, we used to have to haul wood, and we were hauling wood, and I know if you can imagine that, but we were hauling wood, and we got in a fight. My brother threw like a piece of wood at me, and he hit me, and I was like, "Ow, you fucking, F word." And my dad I don't know where he came from, but he just happened to like show up, and he like grabs me from like my shirt, and he takes me in the house, and he's like, "You tell your mom what you just called your brother." And I was like, "Fucking." He's like, "No, the other word." And I was like, "I don't feel right saying the other word." But I said it with like a question mark, like that's the cuss word. So yeah, my first cuss word was what I would identify with, would be comfortable with calling myself today.
So so you said you were really kind of like religious, or at least connected to the church, because I think it would be unfair to just dismiss people that go to church faithfully and whatever as religious, because when I'm saying religious, I'm thinking of it in more of a derogatory way, and not just we could distinguish devout, Well,
and I think that's the importance of the nuance and being able to actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
Neither one of us, like, you could call out somebody could see our identity, but that doesn't really say who we are. If we say we're spiritual, we say we're gay, we say we're queer, that doesn't really tell you a lot.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it only gives you the basics. It allows you to slip us into whatever categories you need to make you feel safe.
Yeah. But eventually my queerness, my HIV status, caused me to not fit in church anymore.
Yeah. No, I actually had a wonderful experience at church. It was I was still in my active addiction. It was the City of Refuge. They were located in San Francisco. It's and a nice plug for Bishop Yvette Flunder. I was looking at a TikTok where she was preaching, but she's a same gender loving woman, and the church was affirming. And one of the things that I understand is like, I think that you have to, just like with the fact that my relationship with the higher power is personal. I think even within church, you have to kind of navigate that, because folks are there for different reasons and have different understandings. And if you're not careful, if you are susceptible, if pliable, you can get caught up in nonsense, and so it was a wonderful experience for the time that I was there. But after a while, I other things became a little more important.
Yeah. Well, I think it came to a place where I myself couldn't understand how and why I was the way I was. And I felt like the way that I was wrong. And partially, I think because I did end up getting HIV, I felt like there was something I did wrong, like something that I had really fucked up. And that was something that was really difficult for me to kind of like grapple with. And I felt like God would God understood me, and God was okay, and God would forgive me or love me or like whatever. But I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't be okay with it at that time of my life. I don't know. So I kind of had to put God away for a little bit and just kind of be like, okay, the answer's there. I don't have the capacity for it right now.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. What I like, I've always said, like, and I use God because
it's just
works for me.
To say.
It works for me. There's other ways to describe it. Like I think in recovery, we talk about higher power, universe, or whatever.
I like creator.
And what was beautiful for me is like the relationship I have with this higher power, creator, whatever, was one of love and kind of lifting, and there was absolutely nothing I had to do in order to receive the love and support. It meant that even if I wasn't listening, if I wasn't open at this moment, my higher power was never done with me, never completely done with me. It was going to turn me over and let me go. And this idea of spirituality, I've always like where I fall with it is like I said, there's nothing that you have to do. It just is. It's like everything that I do is spiritual. Like I'm a spiritual being. And so
you can't separate yourself from
exactly.
it.
So it's it's not that I need to believe this or I need to believe, I just am. I love the idea too that we're, when they say we're created in the image of the creator, I don't think it's about these encasings like the shell. I think it's about our spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. Yes. Yes.
When you're dealing with folks who struggle with the idea of, because obviously the trauma and, especially being a gay person and being trans or whatever, the way we were sold wolf tickets. My father used to say we were given a bad run in the church. And I have always thought like, if I'm sitting in a pew and I'm listening to somebody say, "We love you, we just don't like what you do," or whatever, and telling like that's a really fucked up message to send to anyone, and especially if a child who's just not certain. So it's like I'm not sure where my thought was, but it's like for you, like maybe we talk about like when the shift was the shift for you when it stopped being safe. Was it when you kind of had a better understanding of who you were, or
when it stopped being safe in religion?
And like for you going to church, or did you have pressure from your family? Was that something like?
I just left. I didn't feel like I could bring all of myself to church. Now that I knew more of myself, I didn't feel like I could bring all of myself there. So that it was really, I can really say it was about me. The church might have told me to like, go away, sinner. Like, we don't want you here. They never did, but I never gave them that opportunity. Like, I just left on my own because I just wasn't in a position. And from what I understood, there was no way I could fit in that space. And so I had to go away, and, like you said, I mean, I think one of the things in talking with people about like, our spirituality and our spirit never goes away. And we might not like connect with it, like realize that we're connecting with it or that it's with it, but it's with us. And I think for me, I had to start realizing that like if we're alive, like that's like whatever it is that's keeping us alive is that, and whatever it is that we're doing to give ourselves life to. And to me, I believe that we're meant to experience joy.
Life, yes.
No, that's totally what it's about, is like, what gives you life? And those are the conversations I have with folks who are like, because in my chaplain work, it's like, it's around death and dying, around identities. And it's like, so what is it that you believe, or what works for you? What causes you to feel good? What causes you to get up in the morning? What causes you to create, like, what is it? I mean, sometimes like for me, there was a time in my life where my fucking like communion with God and connection with God was like on the dance floor, rolling on ecstasy, drinking water. And that was some of the most spiritual time in my life because it was the only time I could just really just let myself free. And it was allowing me to experience freedom. It was allowing me to let go the stresses and the fears and the worries of the world. Those were some of the most magical and spiritual times of my life. Now that don't work for me no more.
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's like, I think that like I look back on those times and I realized that, you know what, I was living, or at least I thought I was living. I was doing the best I could with what I had.
It gave me a life that I was not able to live on my own.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and in some ways I think even a better life.
And when you get to a place like you, we obviously like, with a church, it's like you got to a place where this no longer worked, and then you had to move on. You had to figure out. And I no longer get life and joy from being high and drunk on the dance floor, but I found it in a new way. Like, I like sleeping. No, but but the thing is,
yeah. And then when spirituality came back into my life again, once I got sober, it was different. That God that I grew up in church, it wasn't like I was just like, oh, okay, I'm good with God. I'm good with it. Like, I'll just go back to church, and that's not what it was for me. Like, God, the higher power that I came to know and understand, the thing I sometimes call God, like, was not that God that I grew up with. Like, it was so separate for so long. Like, now I can integrate all of that. Like, it's all one and the same, but it had to be very different because my relationship with that God was not, it wasn't good for me. It was toxic, and I couldn't trust it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I like to think that okay, so I like to think that God or higher power for me has always been the same as my understanding of God or higher power. And so I realized once I got a better understanding, because like you said, the God that I grew up with, no way. No way, not loving at all. And as soon as I got to know me a little better, as soon as I got to understand kind of the struggles that I've had and what makes me tick, and then getting the willingness to kind of accept him, own him, understanding whatever my shortcomings were, and now this relationship that I have with my higher power God, I understand that it's a relationship that is not about me being submissive or not having free will, but it's about me kind of making a choice to live a certain way, and living a certain way. It feels good. It's when you make a decision to,
being able to trust yourself,
Yeah,
being
exactly.
back to be able to be back into that intuition. And that's a thing that I think, my dad used to refer to religion as my crutch growing up, and religion definitely was my crutch. And spirituality was my crutch, but not anymore, and I think that's where church, or where some spiritual groups can really begin to fail people, is I think they keep us sick. They keep us in crutches. They want us to not, I want God, or a God, or in my life because I fucking want it, not because I have to, but I have to, right? It's
exactly.
It's that paradoxical stuff. It's yes, it took me desperation, and I needed that desperation to find spirituality and to really connect with myself and to do all that. But I'm beyond being desperate.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need to live my whole life in desperate desire for God to have mercy on, or to not trust. God didn't create me like that. And I think when I can be really connected with God, we're one. We're all in one. And so what I do is already, you know what I mean? My will is God's will.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of like I do with my sponsees. It's like when I remind them that the work that we do, this is not about you pleasing me or whatever. This is about you. And I believe that you're worth it. I'm worth it. I'm worth living my best possible life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what my relationship with my higher power is. It's about me living, receiving the possible, the best, and just getting the best out of life, because I'm learning how to be a better version of myself. I'm learning that I can be good. I can be thoughtful to other people. I have always seen, even when I shut down and avoided the church, some of the basic principles that a lot of religious groups have, they're right in tune with who I want to become. But the problem is, it's there's usually performance in it. Folks are, rather than actually living it, they're only living it enough to show other people, yes, I'm living it, but their actions behind the scenes. And I think that's where the challenge comes from. And so where I'm at with spirituality is I am acknowledging that I'm a mess, that I'm not perfect, and I'm working towards it. And I think that's it. Becoming aware is the most essential thing.
And who's to say that I'm not going to need that crutch again at some point in time? And
Absolutely.
So I think that churches in these places, they do serve a purpose. Sometimes we do need to go to the hospital, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we need that care. But I don't think we just have to live in that all the time.
Or blindly. I think some of the best sermons I've heard is to challenge. I don't need to sit in the pew and just accept everything on blind faith.
Yeah.
I can have faith, but I get to ask questions that, when something doesn't sound right, it's just a little curious. And I was with this church, the San Francisco Church of Christ. I don't know if they still exist, but in my mind, they were borderline occult. Because of all the messages and all of the things that were sent. And so there was a situation where there was a man, I think he was struggling. He had a child and whatever. And there was one event where the leaders of the church asked him to leave the church. And I was like, wait a minute. And that was the beginning of my questioning. I'm all, when someone is going through something, that is the time when you circle the wagons and you try to be loving and supportive or whatever. And when that happened, I was like, you know, all the faith or all the what I was going through just went right out the window, and that was the beginning of the end for me. And I had to get away.
Yeah.
The idea that like right now we're the church, you know,
Yeah.
you know, some people are confused with buildings and material things or whatever, but the church is about about us coming together.
Yeah, I mean, those can be tools and resources that can potentially bring us closer, or they also can become barriers or something that kind of keeps you from it as well.
Absolutely.
Again, it's kind of how we, just like any tool, it's like how we use it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and whether and what we're going to get from it.
So what do we do? What do we do when we have folks who don't believe that they have spirituality?
We don't fight them. I think we ask them, well, what does bring you joy? What does make you happy? Or what if, you know, what if? I know for me, seeing it exist in other people, seeing that other people believed it, people who were like queer and like drug addicts who believed in like higher power God bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I fucking believed them. And I didn't understand how I could do that. Like I didn't understand how I could exist how I had and have spiritual, you know what I mean? Like all at once. And when I saw people exist like that, sometimes I just used theirs. Sometimes I just used their higher power. Like I didn't have like, so if you don't like, I don't know. And if you don't like, if you don't want to call it God, you don't want to call it spiritual, you don't want like, what is it that gives you life?
Yeah.
What is it that keeps you alive?
I saw Ronald call, he wrote a group of drunks. Sometimes you use that acronym in a way that works for you. If you're joining us, you're watching now, and you have any questions or comments that you want us to talk about, you want us to ponder, please don't hesitate to type it in the messages.
Yeah, we could have a conversation with you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're not trying to ignore you.
It's all on fire and into
all on fire. We're like praising.
Exactly. We're
on fire.
We're having a revival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, yeah, I mean, and that was one of the things I love. Like recovery did create a space, you know, and that's for, you know, like for me, it was really clear when I quit church and I kind of lost God, I directly went to drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And so when I got away from drugs and alcohol, that made room for me to begin to have a relationship with spirituality. And I didn't even realize I was missing it.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, it was there.
Uh-huh.
It was always there. It was just different.
It was finding that awareness, because I think that it's like it's something that's always there. But I usually I would say like God's voice or higher power's voice was there for me. It just wasn't loud enough, or at least I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And so now a little prayer that I say all the time is, God, let your voice be the louder voice in my head, you know, because I'm still like, you know, I'm still in need.
Yeah. And my, you know, like I wish I had like this magical, like mystical experience with God. Like I hope for that. But when it comes down to it, I have faith in like a higher power or all this sort of stuff, because I've done the things and I've had the experience and I've seen it in people over and over and over and over again. So I have like, you know, I have faith in it because I've experienced it. I think for me, it's like, I have a spiritual experience. Like I've had it and I have it. The thing that I've struggled with is talking about it and finding community around it.
So one of the things I find is like, I think that, and this happened with myself, is not believing that you have faith or that you can have faith, and not recognizing it. Like, what does it look like? What does it look like? Like, one of the things that we say in recovery is like, we act as if in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that faith to me sometimes is, even though I don't feel it, I get up out of bed and I make my bed and I go through the motions. I, you know, take a shower, all of those things. And I'm having faith that, you know, the things that I'm doing are going to help me to kind of get.
And after a while, you notice that having that attitude or whatever, you actually then start having those results.
Absolutely.
That's the way I felt too. Is like, I'm going to go out and do this. And then I'm like, this is total bullshit, but I did it. And then I'm like, okay, like maybe it is all crap. Maybe it's all make believe, like whatever. But when I live my life as if it exists, I begin having this life that I've always wanted. And I was never able to like make happen.
Exactly.
Until then. So even if I like one day realize it's all crap, I don't even care.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
I know. I find that like when I'm in tune spiritually, when I'm spiritually sound, like life seems to just go.
Yeah.
It just seems to go, and so that in turn helps me to kind of maintain to stay on course. Like I do something every day. I do a gratitude list every day, and one of the things that I prioritize my life. God first, my sobriety second, me third, and everybody else has to take a number. But I also make sure, like that church that I was talking about earlier, the City of Refuge. One of the things that I got from that experience is like I make sure that I thank my higher power, no matter what. Like I think like I would get a toothache. No, I thank you for the experience and reminding me I'm alive. And it sounds silly,
right?
But sometimes really kind of appreciating the little things are what kind of put things in check. That gratitude list. Oh man.
I have a sponsee that he has a hard time with gratitude too. So he sends me his shititude list, which is very similar. I'm gonna send you this shitty stuff and try to like, and there's good that comes out of it, but
absolutely,
yeah, it's totally part of the process.
Like when I say I'm so happy that I'm no longer an asshole, I mean, that's when I'm being real. I'm so happy that I, was able to kind of walk away before I like curse that person out or whatever. That's real. Although a lot of times I have to be careful because in my gratitude list, if I'm like, I'll put all this fluffy stuff or this filler stuff because I'm performing, because I like whatever. Because rather than show you what's really going on, I'm gonna make you believe I'm a certain things happening for me, and it's like, yeah. There's this poem by Maya Angelou, and I'm not gonna recite it because I don't know completely.
I love her.
I know, I love her to death. But it talks about Christianity, and there, like, unfortunately, like the idea of being a Christian has some negative that goes against it because of people who are a little more extreme and who kind of don't. Based on what we're talking about, don't like have an understanding.
The ones that tell you you're going to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Don't have an understanding of what spirituality and connection is. But what she talks about is like, it's not about me thinking I'm perfect. It's me asking for help. And that's what it comes down to. It's this idea of spirituality is like, I don't have all the answers and you don't have all the answers, but I'm working towards becoming right-sized. And becoming right-sized, I'm going to be practicing humility.
Yeah.
And when I turn things over, when I ask for help, when I don't try to when I don't try to figure out the answer for everything, and that's where I get peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, like as we're starting to say, like if you're like struggling with that idea of like higher power stuff too, like I don't have like a prescriptive like religion kind of higher power concept right now, but for me it's grace. And so to me, a lot of the times God or higher power creator is something that I'm reaching to, something that I'm seeking. And my understanding is grace is that I have value and I have worth no matter what I do. Like I don't have to earn my value or earn my worth. And I've lived most of my life as a, trailer kid, like faggot. I said the word. I mean, either way, like I'm not like, I've like, where was it go? So like, I've always felt like I've had to do more in order to matter, and be of value like everyone else. Yeah, and so I know though, like my understanding of God is, or like the divine or whatever, is that we all have like, I believe we all have the same value and the same worth, regardless of what we do. Absolutely. And so, but it's hard for me to live my life as if I really know that to be true. Yeah. And so what I try to do best is to remind myself as much as I can, or to even act as if I had grace in this moment, how would I respond to this person?
That is so important that you said that. I think that there's no right or wrong way to figure that out. You may have to stumble through. You may go to church after church or a synagogue or whatever.
Or bar or bathhouse.
Or bathhouse or a self-help group, read books, go and on spiritual retreats, do whatever. But I think it's coming to an understanding for yourself, because that's what it's about. It's like, what works for you?
Yeah.
What works for you? Like you said, what are the things that you're most passionate about? What are the things that inspire you? What are things that get your wings going,
And at the end of the day, you're the only one who knows that. So It's like, I have no business telling you
Absolutely
what your relationship is with your higher power or God.
And if
or
I am telling you, then you should know that
Yeah.
I'm probably not spiritually sound.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, it's like I'm all, as much as I'd like to think I'm perfect, sometimes I slip into, and a lot of it has to do with like if I'm uncertain about where I'm at, it helps if somebody else feels the same way. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen all the time.
One thing that came to mind just real quick, I know that we're running out of time, but humility came to mind. That idea of humility, and humility is directly connected to like your relationship with higher power or God or whatever. But I think humility a lot of the times, and I think that's what you're seeing in a lot of religions or beliefs, is that you have to be humbled. Humility is this idea of being less than or lowered or kind of small, right? And it's about being right-sized. And sometimes our right-sized is to be big.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like that's what I've been trying to, is to be humble and live in humility in a way that allows me to have confidence and to know what I know and to do what I need to do without like being, you know what I mean? Like I just never had that confidence or that before, that I think is humility, is being able to live also beyond that and be right-sized, live into the gifts and what it is that
I like the right size. I like the right size attitude, because I've always said, it's like, you know, for me, something that I always remind myself of, I'm important, but I'm not the most important thing here. And I think that the idea of right size, because I don't like the idea of being small or whatever, because that can keep you from kind of realizing your true potential, because you're worried about how you know, if you're worried about how it makes other people feel, and I know that's nonsense. And
for me, I think that's kind of where the growth is like I said, I can understand what grace is and humility, but I still have that idea, like in order for me to not see myself small, I have to then kind of reach to being big. In reality, it's not about being big, it's just about being the right size.
Exactly.
But from my point of view, it's so big to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then thinking of it that way, you don't have to take anything away from anyone else.
No, there's enough for everyone.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You get to love those people who are on the extreme as much as you can.
Yeah. We have a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we're.
Yeah. But we've been lately, it's like making sure that, you know, you can catch me at, on my Instagram handle at LouisLou86. I don't know if there we go. Lulu86. If you want to learn more about me.
Right. And if you're curious about the queer chaplain work I talked about, right now is a really busy season with a queer chaplain. I'm interviewing lots of drag queens and other trans folks around their spirituality. So you can go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Instagram and get connected with that work as well. So,
and just
check it out.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
just a reminder that the Castro Club is a clean and sober gatherings place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. We're located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco, and we endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. So find more information at castrocountryclub.org.
Yes, and now tune in every Tuesday now at 4 p.m. when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels, and that's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time if you're joining us live.
And look for us at the CCC, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So that's Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, I don't know, whatever other places, Google. Leave us a voicemail on our SpeakPipe link in the description below.
Yes, and email us at podcast@castrocountryclub.org.
And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us.
And most important, share
with your friends.
Share.
Share with the people you don't like too.
Exactly. Especially with the people who don't like.
Right.
So see you next week.
See you next week.
Where we're going to talk about stuff.